The research explored the nature, scale and public perception of burglary in 2 wards of Warrington. The podcast will show that, although current crime prevention strategies appear to be ineffective in reducing levels of burglary to below the national average, there are clear indications that more needs to be done to build and consolidate community cohesion and engagement. This, together with intelligent policing using intimate knowledge of the locality, would improve public perceptions of the police and lead to further reductions in crime. Burglary not only has financial impacts on its victims, but it leaves deep emotional scars and fear throughout the community, particularly for the elderly and other more vulnerable residents. Warrington is bisected by the Manchester Ship Canal, the 2 sides of which have very different socio-economic profiles. Stockton Heath Ward was chosen to be representative of the more affluent south, and Orford the more deprived north. These wards allow for comparison as they are not at the extremes of the socio-economic continuum within Warrington. Socio-economic deprivation is often the underlying cause of crime because of the lack of opportunities for social mobility, leading to frustration, alienation and community fragmentation. Public perceptions of policing differ markedly within the 2 locations. Different policing methods may be necessary because of the different crime profiles and social dynamics. Reported burglaries in both wards have followed similar patterns since rising steeply in February 2011, in line with a 14% rise nationally. The number has fluctuated dramatically with some seasonality. The peaks occur in high summer, corresponding with the school holiday period. Burglaries in Orford over time have predominantly been higher than those in Stockton Heath. Homes with no security measures are 5 times more likely to be burgled than those with very basic ones. The research analysed data gathered from 20 streets across the 2 wards. This was facilitated using checklists based upon the 10 principles of crime prevention, promoted by police forces nationally. These include target hardening by making homes more resistant to attack and property more difficult to remove or damage. According to Selney and Thompson, it's important to evaluate the suitability of security measures for each individual property. The research found that homes in the more affluent Stockton Heath were equipped with more visual deterrents. This may be due to residents being able to afford to invest in more home protection and possibly having higher value items to protect. Environmental design by which protection is incorporated in the design of new buildings and the modifications of already established residential areas. A senior police officer reported that until recent cuts, police commissioned urban design specialists to advise developers on steps to design out crime. Local authority planning committees have tended to take a hostile and defensive architectural response to burglary, such as CCTV and gated communities. More recently, more subtle approaches involving natural surveillance and access control have evolved. Much of Stockton Heath was built in the 1920s but did not incorporate conscious crime prevention design. This resulted in many rat runs for would-be perpetrators. Residents now attempt to adopt approaches more in line with current thinking, such as lowering hedgerows, removing potential means to burgle, and allocating access points. However, on the days of the research visits, many gates and access control points were left unsecured. Orford housing is predominantly more modern and has a large number of cul-de-sacs incorporating fewer rat runs, better access controls and street lighting. However, residents appear to be less diligent in taking simple steps to reduce risks. Tools and gardening equipment were often left out in full view, as were ladders and bins at points where they could facilitate unwanted access. CCTV use was rare, although a number of homes had adopted intelligent video surveillance. A questionnaire was used to elicit perceptions of the level of threat, effectiveness of crime prevention methods, and policing strategies in each locality. Analysis of data collected showed that in both wards the greatest perceived threat was from violent crime. In Orford, the threat of drink, drugs and antisocial behaviour was higher, possibly due to the greater socio-economic deprivation. Burglary, although rated as important in Orford, was perceived to be less of a threat than in Stockton Heath. Public opinion in both areas strongly favoured more visible policing as the most effective burglary prevention strategy. The Neighbourhood Watch scheme, although quite low on respondents' priorities, was mentioned on numerous occasions to be a potentially effective measure for reducing crime and building community cohesion. Wilson and Kelling suggested that the neglect of seemingly minor incivilities can lead to a permissive environment for crime, and EQS revealed that upkeep in both areas was relatively good, apart from a small number of streets in Orford. In these, there is a high correlation between poor maintenance and crime hotspots. Police have adopted an intelligence-led approach in response to burglary and use sophisticated methods such as the Vulnerable Locality Index, which facilitates the identification of areas requiring prioritised attention. In these areas, strategies such as Operation Shield have been introduced using unique DNA-based traceable dye. This has led to the lowest domestic burglary figures in 25 years. Where it has been used, the number of burglaries has fallen by 40% in just 7 weeks. Repeat victimisation of the same and neighbouring properties often happens. Police have attempted to address this through a strategy designed by Pease called super cocooning. The main research findings are that more needs to be done to design out crime and to build and consolidate community cohesion and engagement. As Stanko states, community-initiated strategies are more likely to establish moral alignment with the police. Recommendations therefore include establishing partnerships and structures for consulting local communities about policing priorities, while also encouraging residents to take increased responsibility for crime prevention.